Moving into our last concept in our ecology units, we're going to be looking at ecological relationships. First, when we're talking about relationships, we're talking about interactions between organisms. So why do organisms interact in the first place? Well, within an environment, you have limited resources that you can use. Many organisms are going to share a habitat. What is a habitat? It's the actual area in the ecosystem where an organism lives. So that includes all of its abiotic and biotic resources. But each organism has a unique niche. And a niche is all of the things that an organism needs and does within its habitat. So because I am living in the same habitat, because our niches might overlap some, we are going to have interactions, and these are going to form relationships between different organisms. So the first interaction that we're going to talk about is predation, and that's where one animal is going to kill and eat another one for food. So the predator is the organism doing the hunting or the killing for the food, and the prey is the organism that is being killed and consumed as the food. So think about some examples. So in our pictures down here, we have a bear eating some fish, and we have wolves and elk here. The wolves are hunting the elk. So we can also look at a predator-prey graph and show the cyclic nature of the populations in response to each other over time. So check out this predator-prey graph. Notice that the prey population is always higher than the predator population, and that makes sense because you have to have more food than things that are eating the food. But also, every time that the prey population increases, the predator population increases. When the prey population goes down, the predator population goes down. So if you look at point A here, what you have is that the prey population has started to go down, and the predator population went above the prey population. Well, that means that there's not going to be enough food for this particular predator species to go around. So then they have a decline in their population because of lack of food. And then in point B, you have the other situation arising. So you have an increase in prey, but you have a decrease in the predator population. So it's a little bit lagging behind the prey population, but it follows the prey population. So when there's more food, there's more predators. When there's less food, there's less predators. Predators typically are keystone species, and a keystone species is a species that holds the ecosystem together, and it's super critical for the survival of other species in the ecosystem. Predators are often keystone species. They don't have to always be the keystone species, but they are often the keystone species. Why do you think that is? Well, a lot of times they keep other populations in check because they are their predators, and because they keep these populations in check, this trickles down the food chain. So a big example of this, if you would like to look into it, are wolves in Yellowstone National Park. Wolves had been eliminated from Yellowstone National Park by people. They were naturally there. And they got reintroduced in the 90s, and they found that there was this huge impact on Yellowstone with the other population. It even changed the course of the rivers because of the introduction of wolves. So I would really encourage you to get on YouTube and watch. There's some very short, like 5-10 minute videos about that because it's very cool. Our next type of interaction is competition. So this is a relationship that exists between two or more organisms that are fighting for the same limited resource. And you have two types of competition. You have interspecific competition and intraspecific competition. Interspecific is competition between different species. So think international, right? Those are different nations, different countries that are interacting with each other. Intraspecific is where the competition is occurring within the same species. Think intramurals. You have intramurals within the same college, competitions between the same college. So I have some pictures over here of some examples. So in this scenario where you have a lion pride and they've made a kill, and then you have hyenas that are coming in to try to steal the kill away from the lion pride, which type of competition would that be? That would be interspecific competition between lions and hyenas because they are not the same species. However, if you had two different lion prides fighting for a specific territory, what type of competition would that be? That would be intraspecific because lions in this case are the same species. With competition comes the idea of the competitive exclusion principle. So competitive referring to competition, exclusion meaning to exclude or to leave out. So this means that no two organisms can occupy the same niche at the same time. If the organisms are very different, one is probably a better fit than the other. If the organisms are similar, it's going to take a fight in order to see who will win, and the loser will have to find a different niche to occupy. So think about the Lion King. So within the Pride Lands, you had the hyenas and you had the lions, and because they were trying to do the same thing, they couldn't exist together. So one had to leave. Our next type of interaction relationship is symbiosis. So this is going to be any interaction that involves a close physical long-term relationship between two species. So this has to be two different species. One of the species is always going to benefit in this situation. And because it's two different species, this is always going to be an interspecific relationship. So there's three types of symbiosis. There's parasitism, commensalism, and mutualism. So let's look at each one of those. Parasitism, the organism that's benefiting here is going to be the parasite. It benefits from the relationship with the other organism, the host being harmed. So what are some examples that you can think of parasitism? Well, in the corner here I have a picture of a tick, and a tick would be an example of a parasite because it uses the host for blood and nutrients for itself. So getting your blood removed by a tick is negative to you because you need that blood, right? But it is a benefit to the parasite because it is getting nutrition from that blood. So in parasitic relationships, it's really crucial that the parasite isn't actively trying to kill the host. Why do you think that is? Well, for a parasite-host relationship to persist, each population must not have a devastating effect on the other. So if a tick wants to have more than one meal off of the same organism, it can't kill it, right? Because it's eliminating its food source if it killed every single organism that it took a meal off of. So the parasite must allow the host to live long enough for the parasite to survive and to spread. Most parasites don't move very fast at all. They're not hunters. They just kind of sit there and wait for an opportunity. So our next type of symbiosis is commensalism. And this is when one organism is benefited while the other is unaffected, which means that it's neither benefited nor is it harmed. What are some examples that you could think of this situation? My picture example is showing mussels, which are the black clam looking things here, and then barnacles, which is the crusty things that are on the mussels. So barnacles are animals. They actually are living inside of this shell here, and they're not using the mussel as food. They're using it as somewhere to attach themselves to. So they're not hurting the mussel, but they're certainly not helping the mussel get any food. So because of that, the mussel is unaffected. The barnacle, however, is getting a benefit because it's getting somewhere to live. Some other examples of this, you could think about a bird making a nest in a tree. The tree's not getting a benefit from that, but it's not getting harmed by a nest being built on the tree either. But the bird is getting benefited because it has somewhere with protection for its nest. And then our last type of symbiosis is mutualism. So this is where both organisms are going to benefit. It's a win-win. It's mutually beneficial. So it's helping both organisms survive. So think about some examples. One of the easiest examples is our picture here. We have clownfish and an anemone. So anemone have stingers on them, and because they sting, they provide protection for the clownfish. The clownfish are actually immune to the anemone stings. So it's like a nice home protection system for the clownfish. But what do the anemone get in return? Well, the anemone get nutrients from the clownfish's pee and poop, okay? And also the clownfish help protect the anemone from things that do eat it. So when things like sea turtles that can eat an anemone come in and try to take a bite of the anemone, the little clownfish will bust out and like annoy the sea turtle enough to where a lot of times they leave the anemone alone. So it provides a benefit of protection and food for the anemone, and the clownfish gets a home and protection in return.